Welcome to my channel. If you enjoy this story, don't forget to subscribe and like. The stellar wisp drifted silently through the void, a speck of shimmering dust adrift in the endless black of space. Inside the cramped cockpit, Jake Carver lounged in a worn leather chair, its edges frayed from years of use, his long legs propped carelessly atop a control panel cluttered with blinking buttons and flickering screens. He was a big guy, broad-shouldered, rugged but not the chiseled hero type you'd see in holoflicks. No, Jake was rough around the edges, brown hair a tangled mess like it had been caught in a windstorm, a scruffy beard he hadn't bothered shaving in a week, and a lopsided grin that spoke more of mischief than valor. His sharp eyes burned not with bravado, but with a restless curiosity, the kind that had yanked him off Earth and flung him into the stars. He loved tinkering with machines, sipping cheap beer in grimy spaceport bars, and daydreaming of adventures he'd never quite stumbled into until today. Beside him, an ancient radio, a relic from the 21st century he'd kept out of sheer stubborn pride, crackled with old rock tunes, the growl of guitars mingling with the static hum of cosmic interference. Jake fiddled with the dial, half singing a chorus he only half remembered, when the ship jolted hard, as if some unseen giant had slammed a fist into its hull. He lurched forward, boots slipping off the console, the cold coffee in his hand sloshing over the rim and splattering his faded jacket. "What the hell was that?" he muttered, voice rough, setting the cup down to stab at the main screen. Red lights pulsed furiously across the dashboard, glaring at him like angry eyes. A strange signal spiked on the display, its jagged waveform erratic, tagged with coordinates for a nearby planet, X47b. Jake frowned, tapping the screen as if it might cough up an explanation. X47b was a nobody of a world, a runt planet on the edge of contested space, ignored by all but the most desperate ore haulers. The charts were dismissive. No life, no resources worth a damn. So what was this signal? Where was it coming from? Come on, probably just some stray space junk smacking us, he told himself, forcing a calm tone, but then a sound slithered through the radio, not guitars, not static, but a whisper, soft as wind through dead leaves, yet cold enough to prickle the hairs on his neck. "Jake," it breathed, faint but unmistakable. "Come to us, we need you." Jake's eyes widened, his hand trembling as it shot toward the radio's off switch. He mashed it down, the screen going dark, but the whisper didn't stop. It echoed, not from the speakers now, but from somewhere deep inside his skull, as if someone stood just behind him, lips brushing his ear. "Who the hell knows my name?" he rasped, voice cracking, heart hammering like it wanted out of his chest. He spun around, nothing, just the empty cockpit, the pale green glow of the console painting his wary face. He took a deep breath, steadying himself. A quick systems check, no glitches, no interference, no signs of a hack. The signal was real, and it was calling him Jake Carver, a nobody pilot with nothing but a beat-up ship and a knack for barroom bullshit. He stared at the screen, X47b's coordinates pulsing like a dare. "All right," he muttered, gripping the controls. "If I've come this far and don't check it out, what's the point of living? Trap or not, screw it, I'll roll the dice." A crooked grin tugged at his lips, half cocky, half nervous, and he yanked the throttle, sending the stellar wisp screaming toward the mystery planet. X47b loomed into view through the cockpit window, a blood-red orb, its surface coated in fine dust like dried gore, scarred with jagged mountain ranges that jutted up like the spine of some long-dead titan. The light from its dim star glinted off the dust, giving it an eerie shimmer, as if the planet were breathing. Jake guided the ship down to a flat patch, engines roaring as it touched down, a cloud of red dust swallowing the hull before settling into stillness. He suited up in his old space gear, heavy, battered, the helmet's visor scratched from past scrapes. Jake checked the plasma pistol at his hip, his best buddy, that had gotten him out of more than one pirate ambush. He hit the hatch release and stepped out, boots crunching into the soft red sand. The air was thin, like sucking through a crushed straw, but breathable without a tank. He inhaled the dry, dusty scent wrinkling his nose. He scanned the horizon, a desolate hellscape. Endless red sand stretched out, dotted with scattered rocks, some glinting like broken glass under the weak light. Nothing but dust, Jake grumbled, disappointment creeping in, but then his eyes locked onto something odd, a deep, pitch-black pit, sitting alone in the wasteland. It wasn't a meteor crater, the edges were too smooth, too deliberate, like something had carved it with purpose. A faint green glow pulsed from within, flickering like a dying lantern. Jake edged closer, sand whispering under his boots. He leaned over the rim, flicking on his helmet's flashlight. The beam sliced through the dark, plunging into the abyss, but it hit no bottom, just an endless void swallowing the light. The whisper came again, louder, closer, rising from the pit. "Jake, we know you, come down!" He flinched back, nearly tripping, hand flying to his gun. "How do they know my name?" His mind screamed, sweat beading on his brow despite the chill. But curiosity, that damn itch that had dragged him across the galaxy, that had never let him sit still, overpowered his fear. Jake huffed, grabbing a rope from his pack, tying it around his waist, double-checking his pistol, and started rappelling down. The rope creaked against the pit's edge, a dry rasp in the silence. The deeper he went, the colder it got, his breath fogging in thin white wisps. The green glow grew stronger, washing over his suit in ghostly streaks. After what felt like forever, his boots hit something solid, not soft dirt or loose rock, but a smooth, icy metal floor. He swept his flashlight around, and his jaw dropped. A buried city sprawled before him, ancient and forgotten. Towering spires curved upward, forged from a strange, pearlescent metal that gleamed under his beam. Empty streets stretched out, silent but for a faint hum, like wine through cracked ruins. At the city's heart stood a massive stone pedestal, etched with alien runes he couldn't decipher. Atop it lay a bizarre figure, humanoid, but with skin like clear glass, revealing pulsing green veins beneath, flickering with each shallow breath. Its huge, pupilless eyes glowed like twin emeralds, locking onto Jake with an unnerving calm. "Greetings," it said, voice smooth as silk but cold as death, echoing through the stillness. "I am Klythera, the last of the Vynari. We've been waiting for you a long time." Jake froze, gripping his gun, mouth agape but speechless. Finally, he stammered. "Waiting for me? For what? I'm just a damn freighter jockey." Klythera smiled, a thin, frigid curve, void of warmth. "You are the key, Jake Carver. The key to save us, or doom everything you've ever known." Jake stood rooted to the spot, deep in the buried city beneath X-47B, feeling like his boots were welded to the freezing metal floor. His breath puffed out in faint clouds, dissolving fast in the eerie stillness. Before him, Klythera, the alien with translucent skin and blank, glowing eyes, watched him with a serenity that set his nerves on edge. His heart pounded loud enough to echo in his ears, but he forced his voice steady, even as his hands tightened around the plasma pistol until they trembled. "All right, Klythera," he said, throat raspy from the dry cold. "Spill it. I'm no hero, no scientist, just a guy who fixes engines and flies wherever the credits take me." "Why me? What's this key nonsense?" Klythera rose, its movements so fluid they made no sound, like a ghost gliding through the void. Its frail form seemed unreal, the green veins pulsing beneath its glass-like skin casting faint, shifting light across the floor, a hypnotic dance, beautiful and chilling. Jake couldn't look away, caught by the way those lights moved, like something alive yet alien. Klythera tilted its head, eyes flaring like twin beacons in the dark, and spoke, its voice resonating like a bell from some distant, unimaginable place. "Thousands of years ago," it began, "the Vynari ruled this galaxy. We didn't just live among the stars, we commanded them. Cities floated in the void, machines that could resurrect dead worlds, ships that crossed millions of light years in a heartbeat. Our technology outstripped anything your kind could dream of, beyond even the wildest fantasies of your brightest minds. But we were arrogant, too damn proud for our own good." Jake nodded, though his brain was a tangle of half-formed images. He tried picturing it, cities adrift in space, machines breathing life into barren rocks, but it came out fuzzy, like some half-baked sci-fi flick he'd caught on a slow night at Alpha Station. "Yeah, and then what?" He pressed, voice pitching up with curiosity, fingers loosening on the gun as he leaned in, hooked despite himself. Klyth raised a hand, a slow, commanding gesture, pointing to the ruined city around them. Jake's flashlight swept over the twisted spires, their pearlescent surfaces cracked and coated in green moss. Wide streets, once alive with beings like Klyth, now lay silent, buried under dust and debris. A failed experiment ended it all, Klyth continued, its voice sinking with the weight of millennia-old pain. We sought to harness the galaxy's core, the infinite power where stars are born and die. We thought we could bend it, wield it like gods. We were wrong. An explosion tore our world apart, reducing glittering cities to ash, mighty ships to scrap. X-47B was once our crown jewel, a radiant gem in the cosmos. Now it's the cold grave you see. Most of us perished instantly, burned to nothing in a flash of white annihilation. A few, like me, survived trapped beneath the surface, half alive, sustained by a machine that holds our souls. Jake frowned, piecing it together. He imagined a planet shattering, fire and light swallowing everything, creatures like Klyth entombed in the wreckage. So you're ghosts? He asked, skepticism mixing with a shiver crawling up his spine, hands scratching the back of his neck to shake off the unease. Klyth let out a faint laugh, sharp and brittle like breaking glass, gone in an instant. Not quite, it said, eyes flashing as they scanned him. We're remnants, shards of a once great race. Our tech keeps us here, but it's not living, not really. Our souls are caged, our bodies mere shells propped up by fading energy. It drifted toward the pedestal, stepped silent as a shadow, and pointed to a small crystal resting among the carved runes. The crystal glowed fiercely, a tiny star trapped in a cage, its light pulsing weakly but casting ethereal green streaks across Klyth's face. This is the eternal core, Klyth said, voice dropping to a reverent hush. It holds the last of our power, the remnants of the energy we tried to tame. But to awaken it, to bring us back to life, it needs something only humans possess, free will. Jake's jaw dropped, a protest stuck in his throat as he struggled for words. Free will? What the hell does that mean? He blurted, voice cracking with disbelief, grips slackening on the gun. Klyth tilted its head, veins pulsing slowly as if pondering. Our souls are bound to the machine. It explained, voice deep as an abyss. We can't choose our fate, can't decide to live or die, can't break free of this endless loop. But you, Jake Carver, you've got it. Your will, your ability to choose, to act unbound by chains, it's what can ignite the eternal core. If you link with it, you could give us a chance to rise again, to rebuild on a new world from these ashes. Refuse, or choose wrong, and in 24 hours the core self-destructs. When it blows, it'll take this whole system with it, your little ship included. Jake's throat went dry, like he'd swallowed a fistful of X-47B's red dust. He forced a laugh, masking the dread clawing up his gut. Sounds like a grade A trap, he said, voice wavering but edged with defiance. How do I know you're not planning to hijack my head or turn me into some zombie puppet? Klyth's eyes flared, piercing through him like searchlights. We can't deceive you, Jake, it said, soft but icy. The truth is yours to see. I'll show you our past, our power, and let you decide. Jake shrugged, though every instinct screamed to bolt from this freak show. Fine, he said, tightening his grip on the gun for courage. But if I smell anything fishy, I'm blasting that crystal to bits before you can blink. Got it? Klyth nodded, a slow, deliberate motion, then waved a hand. A massive metal door rumbled open in the distance, grinding with a screech that echoed into the dark, revealing a tunnel plunging deep like a throat to hell. Follow me, Klyth said, voice resonating. Our machine awaits. Jake took a deep breath and stepped after it, gun in hand like a lifeline. Darkness swallowed him as they moved, the flashlight and Klyth's green glow his only guides. Then he heard it, a sound like a heartbeat, but louder, deeper, thrumming from afar, each pulse vibrating the floor beneath his boots, as if the planet itself were alive. What's that pounding? He asked, voice shaky, eyes darting around. Klyth turned, its eyes blazing like twin flames in the gloom. That's the Vynari Heart, it said, cold and ominous. It keeps us here. And it will test you. Jake swallowed hard, a chill racing down his spine like ice water. Whatever he'd stumbled into, it sure as hell wasn't the barroom adventure he dreamed of back at Alpha Station. The pitch-black corridor stretched endlessly ahead, leading Jake and Klythera into a vast, cavernous chamber where the shadows seemed alive, clinging to every corner like they hungered to devour the faint beam of Jake's flashlight. As they crossed the threshold, a colossal space unfurled before him, a hollowed-out relic like some ancient cathedral abandoned for centuries. But there were no statues or stained glass here. Instead, dominating the center was a machine, monstrous and strange, towering like a 3-story house, forged from a gleaming metal that reflected the pale green glow pulsing through the room. Hundreds of thick, writhing conduits snaked across its surface, like oversized veins, throbbing with red and green light in a chaotic dance. It wasn't just a machine, it breathed, it pulsed, alive in a way that made Jake's skin crawl. The heartbeat he'd heard in the tunnel now thundered clear and loud, each beat shaking the air, trembling the icy metal floor beneath his boots, and stirring an unshakable feeling. Something or someone inside that thing was watching him, peering through its shell straight into his soul. Jake stopped dead, eyes wide, breath catching in his throat. "What the hell is that?" he demanded, voice cracking with awe, fingers tightening around his pistol like it was the only thing tethering him to sanity in this surreal nightmare. Klythera glided forward, its fragile form a faint green shimmer against the dark. Its pupilless eyes flared, mirroring the machine's glow, and its voice rolled out like an echo from a bottomless well. "This is the Vynari Heart," it said. "Our greatest creation, the thing that holds the souls of our entire race, millions of us, trapped since the day of the cataclysm. The eternal core is the key to restarting it, to bringing us back to life or destroying it forever, ending everything." Jake edged closer, his heavy boots clanging against the floor with each wary step. A strange heat radiated from the machine, not scorching, but alive, like the breath of a sleeping giant. The conduits quivered faintly, their lights flowing like blood through arteries, and that heartbeat pounded in rhythm, slow and deliberate, syncing with his own pulse until he couldn't tell where his ended and it began. "So what do I do?" he asked, skepticism sharpening his tone. "Plug that crystal in and hope for the best?" Klythera shook its head, a slow, firm motion. It stepped toward a metal chair fused to the machine, a cold, throne-like contraption rigged with a mess of wires and gleaming needles jutting from the armrests and backrests, glinting ominously in the dim light. "It's not that simple," Klythera said, its voice dipping with a warning edge. "You must link your mind to the heart. When you do, you'll see our past, know who we were, and choose our fate. But I'll warn you, human minds weren't built for this. It could drive you mad, or worse." Jake smirked, masking the tremor in his gut as he eyed the needle-studded chair. A chill raced up his spine, but he squared his shoulders. "Worse how? Dead?" he shot back, voice laced with bravado, scratching his neck to shrug off the creeping dread. Klythera turned, its eyes blazing like twin green torches in the gloom. "Worse is being consumed," it said, cold and cutting. "The heart lives, and it's hungry. It's not just a machine, it's an entity, born from the will and souls of millions of Vynari. If you're not strong enough, it'll take your will, drain your mind, leave you a hollow shell, obedient, empty, no longer Jake Carver." Jake swallowed hard, throat dry as X-47BS dust. He glanced at the chair, then Klythera, then the hulking machine pulsing like it was daring him. "Fantastic," he muttered, dripping sarcasm. "Anything else fun on the menu? Maybe a beer afterward." "No," Klythera replied, flat and unyielding. "But I'll guide you. Are you ready?" Jake sucked in a shaky breath, exhaling a thin cloud of vapor into the frigid air. He stepped forward, plopping into the chair, the metal biting through his suit with an icy sting. "Probably not," he rasped. "But I didn't haul ass down this damn pit to walk away empty-handed. Let's do it." Klythera nodded and slid the eternal core into a slot on the armrest. The crystal flared, a brilliant green star igniting in the gloom, and the machine shuddered violently, like a beast jolted awake after eons. The conduits blazed, the heartbeat quickening, pounding harder, shaking the floor beneath him. Needles snapped out, piercing his arms and neck, cold as ice and sharp as hell, stabbing through his suit into flesh. Jake clenched his teeth, stifling a yell as pain shot through him like lightning. "Relax," Kayla said, its voice calm but offering no comfort. "Breathe deep, let your mind flow with it." Jake shut his eyes, forcing a long breath, focusing on the heartbeat now more than sound, a living rhythm dragging him under. Suddenly, he felt yanked downward, tumbling into a black abyss, weightless, mind spinning. When his eyes snapped open, he wasn't in the chamber anymore. He stood in a city beyond anything he'd ever dreamed. Towers soared into the sky, gleaming metal kissing the clouds, reflecting the light of 3 suns blazing overhead. Shuttles zipped through the air, humming like songbirds, and beings like Klythera bustled below, clad in shimmering robes, their laughter ringing like music. Then the sky cracked, jagged fissures spreading like a shattered windshield. A blinding white light poured from the rift, searing and unstoppable, and in an instant, everything crumbled. Towers melted like wax, molten metal flooding the streets like lava. People screamed, fled, but the fire swallowed them whole, turning them to ash in a heartbeat. Jake felt their agony, 1,000 knives in his chest, their despair soaking into him. He wanted to scream, to run, but he was voiceless, trapped. The vision shifted. He saw a gleaming lab, walls of polished metal, Vynari scientists grinning around a smaller version of the heart. They cheered as it glowed green, but then it roared, shaking like thunder, and a blast erupted. A black wave surged outward, obliterating walls, vaporizing bodies, the planet quaking before it collapsed. Jake knew this was the disaster Kayla spoke of. Then the scene twisted. He saw himself but not himself. Another Jake stood amid X-47B's ruins, clutching the core, eyes blood-red, face warped with madness. "I am a god!" he howled, cackling as the core exploded, white light erasing everything in a final, apocalyptic flash. Jake jolted awake, drenched in sweat, tumbling from the chair onto the cold floor. He gasped, chest heaving, clutching his head as it throbbed like it might burst. "What the hell was that?" he yelled at Klythera. "I just saw myself blow everything to Kingdom Come." Klythera nodded, eerily calm. "The heart showed you 2 paths, save us or destroy us," it said. "And your deepest fear losing control. The choice is yours, Jake. 20 hours until the core detonates." Jake cradled his head, dizziness and panic swirling. "I need time," he croaked, hands trembling as he hauled himself up. Klythera didn't respond. Instead, it tilted its head, eyes flickering as if hearing something Jake couldn't. Then it whispered, voice quivering for the first time. "We're not alone." Jake whirled, heart slamming against his ribs. From the dark tunnel, another figure emerged taller than Klythera, skin black as polished obsidian, veins glowing red like molten lava. Its eyes burned like twin infernos, glaring at Jake with raw fury. "Klythera!" It roared, voice like rolling thunder, shaking the air. "You dare bring an outsider here?" Jake sprang up, gun in hand, palms slick with sweat. "Who's that?" he barked, panic edging his voice. Klythera turned, its green eyes wide with fear for the first time. "That's Voryn," it said, trembling. "The one who caused the cataclysm. And he wants the core for himself." Jake's heart hammered like a war drum as Voryn's massive silhouette lumbered out of the tunnel's gloom. Each step boomed, reverberating through the chamber like hammer strikes on steel, the floor trembling as if caught in a quake. He towered over Klythera by a full head, his hulking frame clad in jet-black skin that gleamed like polished obsidian, catching the heart's faint glow in eerie reflections. Red veins snaked across his body, pulsing like rivers of lava, flaring with every powerful breath. His eyes, 2 blazing crimson embers, locked onto Jake, searing with an intensity that could have melted steel, making him feel like a rabbit staring down a predator from hell. "Klythera!" Voryn snarled, his voice a thunderclap rolling through a storm, shaking the air itself. "You betray our kind! Bringing this frail human here, handing him the eternal core? Do you want us to die again, or have you forgotten the cost we paid?" He advanced, the floor cracking beneath his weight, hot gusts of breath spilling from him like a furnace roaring to life. Klyth darted forward, planting itself between Jake and Voryn, its frail form quivering but its voice steely despite the fear bleeding through. "Voryn, you destroyed us!" it shouted, green eyes flaring like torches against Voryn's red glare. "Your insane experiment killed millions, turned our world to ash. I won't let you take the core and repeat that madness never again." Its tone rose, sharp with rage and desperation, a final accusation hurled at the architect of their ruin. Voryn threw his head back and laughed, a jagged, metallic screech that stabbed at Jake's ears like 1,000 needles. "Madness?" he growled, a twisted grin splitting his obsidian face. "That was glory! I touched the power of gods, Klyth. I stood on heights you and your weaklings could only dream of. And I'll do it again, this time with the universe kneeling at my feet." He thrust a clawed hand toward Jake, talons glinting. "You, puny human, hand over the core, or I'll rip you apart and paint this floor with your blood." Jake stumbled back, nearly tripping over a chunk of debris, his grip on the plasma pistol so tight his knuckles bleached. Cold sweat trickled down his spine, his pulse racing, but he forced a steady tone, masking the terror with a cocky edge. "Listen up, big guy," he said, breath hitching. "I don't know who you are, but I'm not handing over squat till I figure out what's going on. So how about you chill, huh?" He raised the gun, finger hovering over the trigger, knowing damn well it was a toothpick against this titan. Voryn roared, the sound rattling the air, and charged with impossible speed a black blur Jake barely registered. He fired, a plasma bolt streaking out like a comet, but Voryn swatted it aside with a massive hand, the energy dissipating against an invisible shield. Before Jake could blink, Voryn was on him, claws seizing his throat, hoisting him off the ground like a rag doll. "Weak," Voryn hissed, his scorching breath blasting Jake's face. "But your will is what I need. I'll take it and the core." Jake choked, flailing uselessly against Voryn's iron grip, fists pounding like they were hitting a wall. Then Klyth screamed, a piercing cry of desperation, and lunged. A green beam erupted from its hand, slashing through the air like a blade, striking Voryn's shoulder. He staggered, grip loosening, and Jake crashed to the floor, coughing as air flooded his lungs like a lifeline. No time to rest. Voryn swung, a brutal fist smashing where Jake had lain, shattering the metal into a spray of dust and fragments. "Run!" Klyth yelled, voice breaking with pain and panic. "Take the core and go, Jake!" It stumbled upright, its translucent form flickering like a dying bulb. Jake didn't need a second nudge. He scrambled up, lunging for the chair where the core still sat, its green light pulsing like a distress signal. He snatched it, stuffing it into his jacket, and bolted for the dark tunnel behind him. But Voryn wasn't done. He bellowed, a curse echoing through the chamber, and swung again. From the heart, dozens of metal conduits sprang to life, wriggling like giant serpents, lashing at Jake with terrifying speed. One coiled around his leg, yanking hard, slamming him face first into the cold floor. He yelled, firing wildly at the tendril, plasma bolts sparking, but it only shuddered, unyielding as steel. Klyth charged, another green beam slicing from its hand, severing the conduit like paper. It twitched and fell limp, but Voryn closed in. He grabbed Klyth with one hand, claws crushing its throat, lifting it off the ground. "You can't stop me," he snarled, venom dripping from every word. "The core is mine, and I'll rise alone. No need for weaklings like you." Klyth thrashed, green eyes dimming, its form fading like mist. Jake clawed his way up, watching Klyth dangle in Voryn's grip. Rage surged, burning away his fear. "Let it go, you bastard!" he roared, aiming his pistol at Voryn's head and firing. The plasma bolt blazed, hitting square between the eyes. Voryn reeled, a pain bellow shaking the room, and dropped Klyth, clutching his skull. Klyth crumpled, gasping, its trembling form nearly gone. "Run, Jake," it whispered, barely audible. "He's stronger than I thought. The heart, it's aiding him." Jake glanced back. The heart's conduits glowed fiercely, red and green intertwining, its heartbeat thundering like it was waking to defend Voryn. "What the hell?" he shouted, but there was no time. He hauled Klyth up, its body light as air, and bolted into the tunnel, Voryn's furious roar chasing them like a death sentence. They stumbled through twisting passages, darkness swallowing them, guided only by Jake's flashlight and Klythera's fading glow. The Heart's pulse grew louder, a war drum hunting them down, echoing through the walls. Jake panted, sweat stinging his eyes. "If that thing's alive, why is it helping him?" he yelled, voice raw with exhaustion and panic. Klythera faltered, clutching the wall, its voice a dying whisper. "Voryn created it," it rasped. "He's its father. It's loyal to him, not me, built to serve his will from the start." Jake skidded to a halt, staring at Klythera, eyes bulging. "You're telling me I just pissed off a living machine and the psycho who made it?" he shouted, half hysterical. "Perfect. My life's a damn comedy show." Before Klythera could answer, the floor quaked, a primal growl from the planet itself. Voryn emerged from the tunnel's end, eyes blazing like hellfire, a red energy sword humming in his grip. Behind him, the Heart moved conduits dragging its bulk forward, a metal monstrosity come alive, ready to crush anything in its path. Jake stood frozen in the massive chamber, chest heaving, eyes locked on the Vynari Heart as it lurched toward him. The hulking machine was no longer a lifeless hunk of metal, it lived, crawling forward with a slow, menacing purpose, its countless conduits whipping through the air like giant lashes driven by some unseen fury. Red and green lights pulsed wildly across its surface, casting jagged shadows over the warped walls of the ancient city, shadows that danced like stalking beasts. The heartbeat thundered now, not steady, but a guttural roar, like a wounded animal, each pulse shaking the metal floor, raining fine dust onto Jake's shoulders. Voryn loomed before it, his towering form a war god carved from nightmare, red energy sword humming in his grip, eyes blazing like twin hellfires that pierced through Jake with contempt and insatiable greed. "Hand over the core," Voryn bellowed, his voice a thunderclap tearing through the dark, rattling the air. "Or die with that pathetic ghost, your blood will mingle with these ashes." He advanced, each step cracking the floor, his red veins flaring brighter, molten lava ready to burst from his obsidian shell. Jake glanced at Klythera, slumped against the wall, its translucent body fading like a wisp about to vanish. Its green veins flickered weakly, eyes dimming like a spent candle. "Jake," it whispered, voice thin as wine through brittle leaves. "Run, don't let him have the core." Its arm twitched upward, then fell limp, powerless. But Jake didn't run. His boots stayed rooted, eyes flicking between Voryn and the Heart, a crazy spark igniting in his mind like lightning in a storm. "If this thing's alive," he muttered, voice hoarse with sweat and grit, "then it can damn well die." He turned to Klythera, eyes blazing with a stubborn fire despite the grime streaking his face. "Tell me, how do I kill it? There's gotta be a way." Klythera shook its head feebly, green eyes flickering like they might wink out. "Impossible," it rasped, trembling. "It's too strong, Jake. Only the eternal core can destroy it, but trigger it wrong, and this whole system goes up in flames. Nothing survives." It coughed, its form quivering like it might shatter. Jake gritted his teeth, yanking the plasma pistol from its holster, fingers clamping tight until his knuckles whitened. "Then I'll slow it down," he growled, voice edged with reckless defiance. He charged, boots slamming the floor with sharp clangs, raising the gun and unloading a barrage at the conduits lunging toward him like metal serpents. Plasma bolts flared, ripping through the air, hitting their marks. Several tubes burst apart, spraying red and green sparks like fireworks. But the Heart roared back, a defiant snarl, and dozens more tendrils sprouted, writhing faster, fiercer, a hydra that refused to die, regenerating from its wounds. Voryn threw his head back and laughed, a grating shriek like metal on stone echoing through the chamber. "You think your little toy can stop it?" he sneered, stalking closer, sword humming with menace. "The Heart is immortal. It's my will, my power." He swung, a crimson energy wave slicing the air like a fiery scythe, aimed straight at Jake. Jake dove, rolling aside as the beam grazed his shoulder, tearing his suit open, blood seeping from a searing gash. He yelled, clutching the wound, but his eyes burned with unyielding fury. He didn't quit. Jake snarled, leaping onto a jagged outcrop, boots slipping before finding grip. He aimed at the heart's core, a pulsing red orb at its center, glowing like a dying star, and fired. The bolt struck true, the orb shuddering, its light stuttering. But Voryn charged, swift as a phantom, sword plunging downward. Jake dodged just in time, the blade burying itself in the floor, splintering stone in a deafening blast. "Persistent little pest," Voryn hissed, eyes flaring brighter. "But pointless!" He raised a hand, and the heart answered. A black beam erupted from the core, a tidal wave of shadow crashing toward Jake. It slammed him down, tumbling him across the floor, his pistol skittering away into the dust and rubble. Klythera cried out, weak but desperate, throwing itself in front of Jake. The dark beam hit, shattering its translucent form into glittering fragments, like glass under a hammer, dissolving into sparkling dust. "Jake!" it whispered, fading. "Break it!" A final green flicker flared from the pile, a dying plea. "No!" Jake roared, voice raw with grief and rage, hands clawing the floor. He scrambled for the gun, nails scraping metal, but Voryn loomed over him, blocking all light, sword poised at his throat, its hum a death knell. "It's over," Voryn said, grinning triumphantly. "Give me the core or die now." Then the floor quaked, a primal scream from the earth itself. From Klythera's shimmering dust, a green blaze erupted, fierce and radiant, shaping into its form not flesh, but a glowing spirit, an emerald flame in the dark. "Voryn!" it thundered, a chorus of 1,000 voices united in wrath. "You're unworthy of the core of anything!" The light surged, slamming into Voryn, forcing him back, his pained roar echoing as he flailed uselessly against it. Jake seized the moment, rolling to grab his gun, hands shaking but eyes alight with resolve. He sprinted to the heart's secondary core, a smaller, dim orb Klythera had mentioned in its last breath, and unloaded, each shot rocking the machine with violent tremors, metal screaming in protest. Voryn broke free, lunging with his sword raised, but too late. The orb exploded in a blinding flash, a supernova's death throes. The heart shrieked, a wail of countless tormented souls, its conduits collapsing, the beast crumbling into a lifeless heap of scrap, dust choking the air. Jake panted, chest heaving, turning to Voryn. The Titan staggered, sword clattering to the floor with a hollow ring. "No!" Voryn rasped, his voice fading, his black form cracking like a statue under a sledgehammer, fragments dissolving into dust like Klythera before him. "I am immortal," he mumbled, eyes dimming to embers before snuffing out. "Not anymore." Jake spat, voice ragged, hauling himself up. "You're just a ghost too stubborn to fade." Voryn vanished, leaving Jake alone amid the wreckage, the heart's pulse replaced by heavy silence. He pulled the eternal core from his pocket, staring at it, a dull, lifeless stone now, a grim reminder of the cost. Then a distant boom rattled the chamber, not from the heart, but from above, shaking the room once more. Jake looked up, heart skipping, sweat chilling on his brow. "What now?" he muttered, exhaustion mixing with dread, eyes darting to the dark tunnel leading topside. Jake bolted from the stifling chamber, boots pounding shattered metal, racing back through the pitch-black tunnel with his heart thumping like a jackhammer. The booms grew closer, louder, each one a sledgehammer blow, as if X-47B itself groaned in its death throes. His helmet's flashlight flickered weakly, slicing through the gloom, illuminating cracked, dust-caked walls, scars of a world long dead. He climbed the pit's rope, hands burning as it scraped his palms, and burst onto the surface, freezing as he looked up. X-47B's sky was ablaze not with fire, but with swirling streaks of green and red, a cosmic tempest tearing through the heavens. Red dust clouds shredded under blinding light, and above, a fleet emerged, not human, but alien, ships like colossal metal spiders, their spindly legs dangling, hulls glinting with cold steel. "Oh crap!" Jake breathed, voice rough, sprinting for the stellar Wisp parked nearby. Red dust billowed under his feet, clinging to his torn suit. He vaulted into the cockpit, slamming the ignition, screens flaring to life with chaotic waveforms. A voice cut through the engine's growl, icy, emotionless, blaring from the radio. "Human, you've destroyed the eternal core. You'll pay." Jake scowled, hand pausing over the controls, glaring at the speaker like he could see the bastard. "Who's this? Who the hell are you?" he snapped, unease creeping in. The voice replied, sharp as a blade through vacuum. "We are the Klythera, hunters of the core. The Vynari were our slaves, chained in darkness to serve us for millennia. The eternal core was ours, our power, and you've shattered it. Now you die, and your kind with you." Jake barked a laugh, dry and bitter though ice gripped his gut. "Perfect," he muttered, flipping switches, the stellar wisp roaring as it lifted off. "From a 2-bit pilot to the galaxy's most wanted. My life's a damn riot." The laugh died fast as the Klythera fleet encircled him, spider ships weaving a death trap, unleashing red energy beams like a meteor shower. The wisp bucked, alarms shrieking, red lights flashing across the cockpit. "Come on, don't ditch me now!" Jake yelled, pounding the console. He weaved through the barrage, controls jerking, the ship spinning to dodge beams that tore the sky apart. But one hit, blasting a wing, sending the wisp spiraling like a top. Jake gritted his teeth, gripping the stick, sweat pouring, knowing escape was a long shot. Then, out of nowhere, a green blaze erupted from X-47B's surface, not the core, but the glittering dust of Klyth and Voryn. It flared, fierce and alive, a towering emerald inferno amid the red waste. From it, thousands of Vynari spirits rose, not just Klyth, but countless others, translucent figures with pulsing green veins, eyes like blazing gems. They soared skyward, a chorus of anguished roars merging into a tragic symphony, slamming into the Klythera fleet. Spirits pierced the spider ships, green explosions ripping through, metal shards raining down, igniting the sky in fiery streaks. Jake gaped, hands slipping from the controls, disbelief warring with hope. "Klyth?" he whispered, voice trembling. Klyth's voice echoed in his mind, faint but clear, a murmur from beyond. "Jake, this is our final gift. Your freedom is ours. We've been shackled too long, but now we choose our end." It carried a deep sorrow, yet a release, a last note in an unfinished song. The green light faded, leaving a silent sky, the Klythera fleet obliterated, debris drifting in the void. Jake sat stunned, hands shaking on the stick, breath ragged from dodging death's blade. He peered through the viewport at X-47B, now a dead rock, no trace of the city, the heart, or the spirits that saved him. Red dust swirled in the wind, a wordless goodbye. He flicked the radio, voice unsteady as he hailed Alpha Station. "Mission done. Found an ancient sieve, a living machine, and a galaxy-sized mess. No threats left. I think." His tone was rough, weary, but laced with his usual bravado. Piloting the Wisp away from X-47B, his chest felt heavy. He'd survived, but at what cost? Klyth, Voryn, an entire race gone, all for his freedom. He pulled the core from his pocket, cradling the dull stone, fingers tracing its rough edges. "Final freedom, huh?" he murmured, voice low. "Hope you found it, Klyth. Hope you all did." Days later, Jake slouched in Alpha Station's bar, a familiar haunt of dim yellow lights and raucous chatter. He nursed a beer, staring out the big window into the infinite black. Max, a red-headed pilot, clapped his shoulder, grinning. "Heard you hit some wild shit on X-47B. Spill it, man." Jake sipped, the bitter taste grounding him. He smirked, a faint curve that didn't reach his eyes. "Yeah," he said flat. "An underground city, a machine that tried to eat me, and alien spiders out for revenge. Oh, and a race that died so I could sit here drinking with you. Long story." Max guffawed, slapping his thigh. "You're a magnet for crazy, Jake. Peak freighter life." "Yep," Jake replied, gaze drifting to the stars twinkling like undying souls. "But this time, I don't know if I won or lost. Maybe both." He set the glass down, hand brushing the pocket where the core rested. Then it stirred warm, vibrating faintly. He pulled it out, and a weak green spark flared inside, a fleeting pulse like the heart's last beat. Klyth's voice whispered, soft and at peace. "Jake, we've found freedom. You gave it to us. Thank you." The light died, the core dull once more, but Jake smiled, a real one, small but true. He took another swig, leaning back, and muttered, "Rest easy, Klyth. I'll be fine, probably." Somewhere, amid X-47B's red dust, a breeze lifted glittering sand into the void, not a farewell, but a promise of a new dawn, etched in the memory of a scrappy human pilot from Earth.